Clash of Empires, the battle that doomed Rome. The dust hung thick over the fields of southern Italy, a suffocating haze that clung to the air like a curse. It was August, 216 BC. The Roman Republic, unbeaten, unbroken, the rising titan of the ancient world, stood on the brink of its greatest humiliation. 80,000 legionaries, the finest soldiers Rome could muster, marched toward what they believed was a decisive victory. They outnumbered their enemy nearly 2-1. They were disciplined, armed with the legendary gladius, and backed by the might of a republic that had never known true defeat. But by the time the sun dipped below the horizon, 15,000 Romans would be dead. 45,000 more would be captured or slaughtered. This wasn't just a battle. It was a masterclass in annihilation. And the man who orchestrated it, a 29-year-old Carthaginian general, exiled, hunted, and driven by a hatred so fierce it would reshape history. His name was Hannibal Barca, and this was Cannae, the Roman arrogance. Rome had never feared anyone like it feared Hannibal. He had been a specter haunting their dreams, crossing the Alps with elephants, ambushing armies in the fog, the narrator continued. But now, the Senate was convinced. This time, they had him. The consuls, Paulus and Varro, had assembled the largest Roman army ever fielded, 8 legions, 80,000 men. They would crush Hannibal once and for all. But Hannibal wasn't just any general. He was a student of war, raised by his father to despise Rome. As a boy, he had sworn an oath, "I will never be Rome's friend." Standing on the plains near Cannae, he looked out at the Roman host, a sea of shields and spears, and he smiled. Because Hannibal knew something the Romans didn't. He didn't need to win. He needed to make them lose. The trap is sprung. The Romans advanced at dawn, their legions arranged in a massive, unyielding block. Varro, the aggressive consul, had spent the morning taunting Hannibal's men, shouting that Rome would feed their corpses to the vultures. The Carthaginian army, a patchwork of Iberians, Gauls, and mercenaries, must have looked like easy prey. But Hannibal had chosen this ground carefully. The open plain forced the Romans into a frontal assault, won exactly what he wanted. As the legions marched forward, something strange happened. The center of Hannibal's line, the weakest part, made up of inexperienced Gauls, began to retreat. Not in panic, but in a controlled, almost inviting collapse. The Romans, sensing victory, surged forward, pushing deeper and deeper into the Carthaginian ranks. But the more they advanced, the tighter the noose became. Hannibal's real strength wasn't in the center, it was on the wings, the annihilation. His cavalry, led by the brilliant Numidian commander Maharbal, had already crushed the Roman horse on the flanks. Now, they wheeled around behind the legions, cutting off any chance of escape, and then the trap snapped shut. The Carthaginian infantry, which had been retreating, suddenly held firm. The Romans, packed so tightly they could barely swing their swords, found themselves encircled. Hannibal's veterans closed in from all sides. What happened next wasn't just a battle. It was a meat grinder. The Romans, trapped in a space so confined they could hardly move, were cut down by the thousands. The consuls themselves fell. Paulus, the steady veteran, died fighting, while Varro, the reckless hothead, fled the field in shame. By the end of the day, 70,000 Romans were dead or captured. Hannibal had lost fewer than 6,000 men. Hannibal didn't just win, he erased an army, the ghost in the gates. The aftermath of Cannae sent shockwaves through the ancient world. Rome was paralyzed, allies rebelled. The Senate, in a panic, even resorted to human sacrifice, burying 2 Gauls and 2 Greeks alive to appease the gods. Hannibal, meanwhile, feasted in the captured Roman camp, drinking wine from the vessels of dead consuls. He had done the impossible. And yet, he didn't march on Rome. Historians still debate why. Was it lack of siege equipment? Or perhaps the most haunting theory, he wanted to break Rome's spirit first. He wanted them to surrender out of terror. For years afterward, Roman mothers would whisper to their children, "Hannibal ad portas." Hannibal is at the gates. The phrase became a nightmare, a warning of what happened when Rome grew complacent. But Cannae, the darkest day, also forged Rome's future. The Republic, humiliated but not broken, would rise again, harder, smarter, and more ruthless. They would adopt Hannibal's tactics, his genius. Because Rome didn't just learn from Cannae, it remembered, and that perhaps is the most terrifying lesson of all. Hannibal gave Rome its darkest day, but in doing so, he created the empire that would one day bury Carthage forever. If you want to dive deeper into the tactics and genius of ancient warfare, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Clash of Empires. We post new videos every week.